My beloved child, there have been moments when I have drawn very near to stir your heart, yet you still turned away, still assumed it was only ordinary fatigue, a passing silence of the soul. But if this time you again choose to make light of it, again refuse that quiet urging, then remember this: grace does not always knock a second time. Not everyone is given the chance to turn back from a crossroads already cracked and fragile. I do not want you to break, but if you keep equating weariness with failure, then the breaking will indeed come, because you have not learned how to listen to me in that very silence. There are roars that can only be born after a long, deep stretch of quiet. I see that you are tired, but I do not see you as a failure. For there are trances of the soul that are not endings, but signs that I am cleaning out your inner being, preparing you for a new work. Not a single drop of sweat you shed now is meaningless. Not a single confusion is wasted, because I am not shaping you into an ordinary person, but into an instrument that can resound in the kingdom of truth. I know the thoughts I think toward you, thoughts of peace and not of calamity, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. Do not be quick to fear when you begin to feel lost in the very things that once felt familiar. Do not rush to label the heaviness in your soul as a sign of failure or decline. I, the one who created you, do not measure your process by the pace of this world. I see in you a turning that human eyes cannot perceive. Every inner trembling, if brought into my light, is a preparation for a greater step. You only need to be patient and remain right in that very moment that seems like it will break you. There will be seasons when you feel as though you are swimming against the current. No one understands you, no one walks beside you, and everything that once set your heart on fire suddenly becomes tasteless. But that is not being lost. That is me, pulling you out of old layers, setting you apart for a greater calling. I do not build the strongest ones through applause, but through distance, through silence, through stripping away layer after layer of outdated identities. Will you dare to stay and let me do that? The weariness you are feeling is not because you are weak, but because you are resisting the transformation I have already begun. You want to move forward, but still cling to what is old. You ask for a new door to open, yet are afraid to close what is familiar. That is the inner conflict many have mistaken for collapse. But I tell you the truth. Wherever there is conflict, there is a sign that I am powerfully at work clearing the way. If you would only stop running and listen, you would see that I have never left. You know those long sleepless nights, those moments when your heart trembles because you cannot even explain the surge of emotions. Those are not signs of panic, but alarm bells announcing that the Spirit is intervening deep within your soul. I did not call you to live a safe, uneventful life, but to walk a deeper path, where every emotion becomes sacred when touched by me. When you suddenly can no longer find meaning in the things that once brought you joy, when everything around you grows quiet and dull, do not be alarmed. It is precisely in that empty space that I am rewriting a new script for your life. Silence is not my rejection, but the time I take up the pen to draw a greater vision for you. Sacred transition is not noisy, nor does it come with clear announcements. It comes like a gentle breeze, like a sharp twinge in your heart, like a tear rolling down for no apparent reason. You simply must not be too quick to define it as failure. For if you allow me to complete this process, right within that very turmoil, I will raise up a new person, steadier, brighter, and more like me than ever before. From depths you barely notice, I see the chaos in your heart, growing day by day. You think it is just a little passing boredom, a few minutes of meaningless silence, a few racing heartbeats from pressure, so you try to ignore it, to trade it off with busyness, with forced laughter, with social media and endless conversations. But the more you try to cover it, the louder it resounds inside, like a tiny crack in a rock that water keeps seeping into, slowly destroying it from within rather than from the outside. I do not say this to frighten you, but to awaken you. If you keep treating your inner turmoil lightly, you will grow accustomed to living far from me without even realizing it. At some point, you will no longer hear my voice, not because I have stopped speaking, but because your heart has become too noisy, too numb to any spiritual signal. I love you too much to silently watch you slip into that paralysis of the soul, so I must allow these storms of confusion to ring out like an alarm bell, calling you to stop. The root of this turmoil did not appear out of nowhere, nor is it merely because you are weak or emotionally unstable, as you accuse yourself. It arises when you live in opposition to the calling I have placed deep within your soul, when you try to squeeze yourself into the molds of this world while inwardly belonging to a completely different rhythm. You try to please everyone, to prove you are fine, but the more you try, the further you drift from your true self, and that is when your soul begins to cry out. In fact, within that chaos, I am using everything to draw you nearer to me, for as I have spoken, all things work together for the good of those who love God. So, even the days when your heart is in knots are being used by me to straighten your path. Your soul is being pulled toward the light, while old habits drag you toward the shadows, and that tension in opposite directions makes you think you are breaking. But in truth, it is simply the moment when you can no longer live a double life, one life for me and one for your fears, and this very conflict is a clear sign that the time of transition has come. I do not blame you for stumbling in that inner storm. I understand that you are afraid, exhausted, unsure what to even call what you are going through. I know you have prayed, then grown discouraged, fallen silent, then tried to act strong as if nothing had happened. But my child, I am not waiting for a child who can perform strength. I am waiting for a heart that dares to admit it is confused, weak, and in need of help. You do not need to polish yourself up before coming to me. You only need to bring the whole mess within you. The thoughts you consider ugly, the questions you fear are irreverent. When you dare to place those broken pieces before me, that is when the transfer begins. From your hands to mine, from striving for control to surrender. I will not snuff out a smoldering wick, nor break a bruised reed. I will lift it up, gently tend it, and make it stand firm once more. I invite you to come home, not with a cold command, but with the tenderness of a father who has long waited for you at the doorstep. Coming home does not mean you must understand everything at once, nor that you must instantly end all turmoil and become calm before you dare to draw near to me. Coming home simply means you stop and dare to say to me in your small room, at the corner of your bed, or in the middle of a sleepless night, Lord, I don't understand what is happening to me, but I am here. When you open your mouth like that, you are shifting your heart from resistance to receptivity, and I have a place to enter. I will teach you how to sit quietly with yourself, to read my word in Scripture again, to pour out your heart in prayer, or simply to slow your breathing and realize I am present in every breath you take. You do not have to return on your own. I hold your hand, little by little, leading you out of the fog of confusion you have long mistaken for your nature. Then, at a certain point when you begin to respond to my quiet voice within that turmoil, you will notice something strange. The things that once made you feel you belonged in the crowd no longer bring you peace. Conversations that used to make you laugh out loud suddenly feel empty. Places that used to be your safe zone become cramped. Relationships once full of noise can no longer reach the new depth within you. You will feel as though you are drifting away from everything, as if you are being set apart, left behind, and at times, you may even think it is a sign I have abandoned you. But in truth, it is precisely then that I am gently moving you out of old layers, so you no longer have to live split between your outer life and your inner life. I am preparing a new space for you, where you no longer have to pretend you are fine, no longer have to smile when your heart is crying, a place where you are set apart to hear my voice more clearly. The distance you feel then is not me leaving you. It is me quietly drawing you out of the crowd, so your heart can begin to learn what it means to belong wholly to me. There are times you will sit in a room full of people and still feel empty, as if the laughter and chatter around you merely skim past you without touching you. You begin to ask yourself, am I being left behind? Is everyone else moving on while I'm the only one standing still? And from those questions, the fear of being excluded silently grows, causing you to see every distance as a verdict, that you are no longer loved, no longer chosen. I want you to stop right there and refuse to believe the dark whispers speaking in your heart. A feeling of distance is not always proof that you have been rejected. Often, it is simply a sign that you no longer belong to that narrow, worn-out place. If you only fixate on who is walking away from you, you will miss the reality that it is I, myself, gently drawing you out of circles that no longer fit your soul. When you begin to feel out of place in spaces that once felt safe, that is not a tragedy but an invitation. The conversations that once amused, you suddenly feel bland. The habits that once helped you unwind no longer fill the emptiness. The fun that once made you laugh until you forgot everything now only leaves you more tired. None of this is to condemn you as difficult or strange. It is a sign that I am lifting your soul to a higher level. So you cannot go on living as shallowly as before. I am not pushing you into emptiness to abandon you, but to lead you out of what is now only a shell of the past. Remember, as I have promised you, I will never leave you, nor will I forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. So, your feeling of distance from your old environment is not me departing from you. It is me taking your hand and walking you into a new season. Each time you find you no longer belong where you once were, ask yourself, is he calling me farther, deeper, more truly? For the answer is often yes. There will be people who quietly step out of your life just as gently as they once stepped in. Some whom you thought would walk with you all your life will turn away in silence. Some you once called brother, best friend, soulmate, will no longer be able to journey with you in this season. You hurt, you feel small, you ask yourself what you did wrong, why you were not enough to keep them. But I want you to see these farewells with different eyes. Many do not leave because you are unworthy, but simply because their journey stops at a point where yours must continue. When I desire to lead you into a new spiritual depth, I will not allow certain bonds to keep pulling you backward forever. The empty spaces you see as losses are actually places I am clearing, to make room for those whose hearts beat with the same rhythm, who thirst for me as you do, who share your vision, to step into your life. You are not being left behind. You are being lovingly rearranged. I know that with your sensitive heart, every parting leaves a wound. You often blame yourself, compare yourself, and conclude, it must be because I'm not good enough, so everyone ends up leaving me. Those conclusions only make you shrink back more, fear closeness more, and more easily believe that I too will do the same to you. But, my child, I am not like anyone who has ever come and gone in your life. I do not love you based on achievements, on moods, or on what you can do for me. I love you with an unchanging love, and it is precisely because of that love that I dare to prune away the relationships that no longer lead you closer to me. Those who stop along the way are not betrayers. They simply were not meant to walk with you into the new season, and that is part of my wisdom for you. Therefore, instead of clinging to every relationship that is fading, I want you to turn back and ask me, Lord, what are you wanting me to learn in these empty spaces? Instead of striving to prove that you are not useless, not inferior, not someone who deserves to be left alone, bring that very loneliness to me. You can tell me about the messages that have gone unanswered for a long time, the meetings that are no longer mentioned, the empty chairs in the familiar cafe that make you sad. I listen to every detail and miss nothing, and in each detail, I will show you how my hand is rearranging your life. The silence between you and others is the space where my voice can become clearer, where you discover that you have never truly been as alone as you have always thought. When you make room for me in the territory of your loneliness, you will realize that this setting apart is not a punishment, but a gift I am preparing for you. When you begin to accept that being set apart is part of the journey with me, you will no longer panic every time you feel you no longer fit in a certain place or with certain people. Little by little, your need to explain yourself to everyone will lessen, and you will feel less pressure to convince others that you are still fine, still happy, still the same as before. Instead, you will learn to cherish the seasons in which you must walk slowly, walk alone with me, as necessary stretches of forest road before stepping out into wide open spaces. It is in this very process that you will recognize your true worth does not lie in the number of people surrounding you, but in the one who walks with you. Then you will begin to step over a new threshold, no longer living to cling to how others see you, but to let the light I have placed within you be expressed naturally. And from here, I will teach you something deeper still. You are no longer someone who has to strain to prove you are worthy, because your very presence, when you are in me, has already become something needed by this darkened world. For a very long time, I have watched you live as if you were always in some invisible exam, constantly having to prove that you are good enough, capable enough, worthy enough to stand in the eyes of others. You smile more brightly when someone praises you, you withdraw into yourself when no one seems to notice, and your sense of worth rises and falls like a heartbeat tied to the comments of those around you. Every success becomes a piece of evidence you use to reassure yourself. I'm not that bad. I'm still okay. And every mistake becomes a reason for you to silently condemn yourself. You do not realize that when you live like this, you are allowing others to hold the key that defines you instead of me. I look at you with deep compassion because you forget that before anyone ever praised or criticized you, you were already a child whom I called by name, whom I knew fully, whom I loved completely. I did not create you to play the supporting role in someone else's story and spend your whole life trying to earn their applause. In fact, the deepest root of your need to live in constant proof does not lie in your talents or circumstances, but in an inner wound, the fear of being abandoned, belittled, or forgotten. From a young age, perhaps you grew used to being acknowledged only when you produced good results, being praised only when you were good, being loved only when you behaved correctly. So your heart learned a distorted lesson. If I want to stay, I must keep trying without stopping. And so, even after you have begun walking with me, you unconsciously bring that same formula into your relationship with me. You think that only when you are strong, fervent, and free from mistakes will I be pleased with you. But you forget that I am not a demanding spectator in the stands. I am a father who steps down onto the field, sits beside you, and takes your hand even when you feel you are doing nothing right. Your value does not increase when you succeed, and it does not decrease when you are weak. It rests in the very truth that you belong to me. Now I am inviting you to step off that exhausting stage where you always stand under the blinding spotlight of human opinion. Remember, I have called you light, not a beggar for light from others. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Mot 5:14-16. And that light does not need to fight for a place. It only needs to be present in the very place where I have set it. You do not need to shout to grab someone's attention, for when you stand in the position I desire, the light within you will naturally draw attention in the way I have ordained. I am not asking you to live hidden away. I simply want you to stop depending on how others look at you. When you shift your gaze from the audience around you to me, you will feel the relief that comes from no longer having to live as if life were an endless exam. When you begin to believe that my affirmation matters more than any applause, you will also discover something else. The things you once labeled as weaknesses are actually the instruments through which my light is revealed. Your sensitivity that makes you easily hurt, your zeal that makes some say you are too much, the tears you have tried to swallow because you feared being called fragile, all of these, in my hands, become doors through which I can touch others. Because you know pain, you know compassion. Because you have cried, you understand what it means to live with cracks. Because you have been misunderstood, you have learned how to listen fully to the heart of the one in front of you. The world may tell you, be tougher, don't be so sensitive. But I say to you, bring that very softness to me, and I will use it like a cracked clay jar through which my light shines all the more clearly. You do not need to force yourself into a toughened version just to fit worldly standards. You only need to let me teach you how to be soft without breaking, deep without drowning. I want you to pause and ask yourself, what are you living to prove, and to whom? You throw yourself into work, into service, into good projects, but if beneath it all there still lies a fear of being looked down on, then you are still only trying to prove yourself, not truly walking in freedom. I do not need you to strain to become useful. I need you to return to your true place, the place of a child who is loved unconditionally. When you dare to come before me and say, Lord, I am tired of always having to prove myself. I am afraid of always having to be strong. That is the moment the burden begins to fall. I am not asking you to abandon every responsibility. I want you to do everything from a place of being loved, not in order to be loved. Then every work of your hands, every word you speak, every drop of sweat you shed will no longer be lines on a resume, but rays of light naturally shining out from a heart that knows it belongs to me. And then, when you are no longer busy with the game of proving yourself, you will begin to hear more clearly something deeper that I am whispering. What you need is not just more plans, more goals, more tasks, but an inner life ready to live according to my will. The light within you does not grow stronger because you run faster, but because you allow me to purify your motives, heal your wounds, and realign your path. You may be used to drafting your plans in detail and only then inviting me to bless them, but I want to teach you to let me be the one who writes the plan from within your heart. When you step out of the race of proving yourself, you will finally have enough inner space for me to speak to you about something more important than any outward result. A heart that understands me, trusts me, and dares to say yes, even when it does not yet understand everything. And there, you will begin to realize that the journey ahead is not merely a story of how much you can accomplish, but first of all, of who you are becoming in my hands. Day after day, I see you laying before me countless plans, goals, projects, and roadmaps, as if having everything written out in detail could give your heart peace. You take notes, you highlight, you pack your schedule until your weeks and months are full, and then you ask me to bless all that you have already arranged. Yet deep inside, you still feel uneasy. There remains a strange emptiness that no plan can fill, and at that very moment, you push yourself to do more, run more, calculate more. My child, I say this to you in love. If you continue to place your trust in the structure of your plans rather than in the one who leads you, your heart will gradually dry up without you realizing it. Living this way, you will easily confuse controlling everything with obeying my will, and one day, when all your plans collapse, you will think I have abandoned you, when in truth you simply never really listened to me from the start. I do not awaken you to scold you. I do it so that you will not have to pay with years of weariness that could instead have been lived in peace. Within you, there is something very interesting that you seldom notice. Your soul has already begun to move further, but your mind still clings to the old. In the depths of your being, you sense another kind of call, a longing to live more truthfully, a longing to draw nearer to me, a longing to step out of what is merely external form, but your thoughts stay attached to the safe zone, to familiar patterns, to the expectations others have of you. My spirit has been blowing to push your boat out into deeper waters, but your reasoning stubbornly wants to stay on the shore, where you can still keep control. That is why you feel so drained. One part of you wants to move forward, another part wants to stand still, and this inner tug of war makes you think you are falling apart. I have already said, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be given you besides. Mount 6:33. But you often reverse the order. First come the plans, and my will comes later. When that order is wrong, no matter how cleverly you calculate, your heart will not be at rest. Often you think you do not yet have enough conditions to step into what I am calling you to. Not skilled enough, not experienced enough, not enough money, not enough time, not enough support. So you keep postponing, waiting to be ready before you dare to move. But, my child, many times the issue is not the lack of conditions as you imagine, but that you have not been quiet enough to clearly hear the call already resounding within you. You surround yourself with noise, news, social media, endless conversations, piled up work, so that you do not have to face the question, what exactly am I? Inviting you to live in this season. You feel lost, so you run to ask the opinion of many people, forgetting that you can sit down with me, lay everything down, and ask for my light. If you would give your heart a few moments of real stillness, you would be surprised to find that my voice has been there all along, only buried under so many layers of worry and fear. I do not want you to throw all your plans away and live carelessly. I simply want you to change the order of your priorities. First, let me touch your inner life, and only then decide what you will do. I delight in seeing you have dreams and vision, but I love even more a heart that is willing for me to redraw the path when necessary. When you bring each of your plans before me and say, Lord, this is what I think, but if you wish, you may write it differently. You open yourself to an entirely different possibility. At that point, you are no longer bound by the fear of getting it wrong, because you know you are walking with the one who knows the way perfectly. An inner life ready to receive. My will is not a flawless heart. It is a heart that allows me to touch it, to question it, and to suggest steps you never would have thought of on your own. I invite you to begin in a very simple way. Before each decision, even a small one, practice pausing for a moment instead of rushing ahead on autopilot. You can whisper, Lord, I am thinking of doing this, but please give me your light. If this is not good for my soul, please block it. As you persevere in living like this, you will gradually notice the difference between plans born of fear and plans that sprout from faith. What comes from faith is usually accompanied by peace, even if it is not always easy. What springs from fear usually drags along tension, urgency, and the obsession with holding on at all costs. I want you to learn to recognize that sign within your heart so that you may know when to move forward, when to stop, and when to be ready for a completely new direction. In that very process, you will see that a plan is only a framework. What I truly seek is a heart that knows how to listen. There will come a time when, as your inner world begins to grow calmer and more sensitive to my voice, you will realize that there are things you cannot keep holding on to if you want to go deeper into the plan I have for you. There will be roles, relationships, titles, and dreams that were once so right and so beautiful, but now are nothing more than a garment that has grown too tight. Keeping them only makes it harder for you to breathe. I will gently remind you of what needs to be laid down, not so that you give up, but so that you have room to embrace the greater truth I am revealing in your life. If you dare to believe that I never take anything away without giving something deeper in return, you will be less afraid each time you must let go of something that seemed important, and in each act of courageously setting something down, you will see more clearly than ever. It is not loss that is growing, but the very truth about you, about me, and about your calling is being given more space to appear. There is something I want to whisper to you, softly yet clearly. Not everything you cling to is something I want you to keep. Many times, out of fear that people will call you weak or accuse you of quitting, you cling to roles that no longer have life, to relationships that have become mere habit, to titles that no longer match who you are within. You hold them like a dry branch and call it faithfulness, while your soul grows increasingly withered. I do not come to pat you on the shoulder and say, just strain yourself a little more. I come to ask you very gently, are you willing to lay this down? For if you keep trying to hold on to everything only because you are afraid of being labeled a quitter, you will unintentionally abandon the most important thing, the truth I am trying to reveal in your heart. I awaken you not to coerce you, but so that you may see that clinging to what has already died is the real giving up on the very call that is still alive within you. When I look deeply into your life, I see that there are roles you were once given that were very fitting for a certain season, but whose time has now passed. There are roles that once helped you grow, but if you keep them now, they will only exhaust you. There are relationships that once supported you, but now have become places where you must strain yourself just to avoid being misunderstood. There is an image of yourself strong, capable, always ready, that you guard like a protective wall. Even though inside you are already worn out, you are afraid to take those signs down, because you imagine that without those titles you will be nothing. But do you remember, I have said, whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Mote 16:25. That means that when you dare to let go of what you think is everything, you finally have room to receive what I consider true. I am not asking you to deny all that you have lived. I am simply asking you to bravely admit that some things have completed their task, and that when you place them back into my hands, the true light I have placed within you finally has a chance to rise. I understand your fear when you hear the words, letting go. In your mind, letting go is tied to failure, defeat, and to being looked at by others with pity or judgment. You even worry that if you release something, I too will see you as someone who lacks perseverance. But, my child, I do not sit in the audience to grade your willpower. I stand beside you, my hand resting on your shoulder, saying, this is no longer life for you, you may set it down. When you dare to say to me, Lord, I do not want to strain myself like this anymore. If this no longer belongs to your will, please help me step away. You are not being weak. You are taking a very brave step into freedom. Letting go, when done with me, is not running away from responsibility, but accepting that I know what you need better than you do yourself. I invite you to return to a very simple place, to be a child sitting beside the Father, asking Him what to keep and what to release, instead of deciding alone and then condemning yourself. Do you realize that it is your resistance to the inner shift that is draining you? The Spirit is gently turning you towards something new, but you keep trying to push that call down. No, I have to go on as before. Otherwise, people will say I changed, that I am weak, that I gave up halfway. Each time you do that, you are like a person trying to hold a door tightly shut while, from the outside, I am knocking with overflowing love. You are not tired because I call. You are tired because you hear my voice. and at the same time try to act as if you hear nothing. If you would, just once, surrender, stop arguing, stop making excuses, simply say, "If this is you, please help me follow," you would see the great difference between the weariness of resisting and the peace that comes from yielding. Surrender does not erase your personality. It simply frees you from the burden of having to prove that you are always fine, even when you are falling apart. One day, when you dare to set down what has grown old and allow me to fill the space that opens up, you will look back and realize, I have never led you into a dead end. What you thought was the end will appear as a new doorway that you could not see before because your hands were too busy gripping too many things. You will see that each time you let go of a role, you take a step closer to the true person I created you to be. Each time you allow a relationship to leave, you widen the space for those who will truly walk with you in your calling. Each time you stop clinging to a perfect image, you allow others to see a child who is being healed by me. And from precisely those places that seemed like loss, you will taste more deeply the kind of peace the world cannot give, a peace not built on control, but on trust that I know exactly where you are going. Then you will understand more deeply why I have used even your fatigue, confusion, distance, turmoil, and every act of laying things down to prepare you for something greater, not only for my plan, but for a version of you that is truer, freer, and brighter in my sight. My child, everything that is happening to you in this season is not a string of nameless, meaningless events drifting by just to fill the days. Every inner tremor, every seemingly random encounter, every door that closes, every nameless confusion, all of it I allow to happen with a very specific purpose. They are like signs that only a listening heart can read, each dot and each pause leading you in one direction, back to the true self I placed within you from the very beginning. You have grown accustomed to living by reflex, to simply enduring whatever comes, to bracing yourself whenever waves rise, to pushing yourself quickly past your fatigue so you easily assume that everything is just bad luck, trial, the pressure of life. But I want you to look deeper. Behind those things that seem random is my hand, quietly arranging, slowly peeling away the layers you have wrapped around yourself out of fear of being hurt, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. I did not create you to be a victim of circumstances. I am using those very circumstances to awaken the truest part of you, the part you have long buried beneath busyness and constant effort. When I speak to you about the days ahead, it is not as a threat, but as a tender message. The days before you are not just 7 sunrises and 7 sunsets passing by indifferently. They are like a span of time I have set apart, a sacred window, during which the things that have long been unclear will gradually become brighter if you are willing to open your heart. A week, for the world, may be only 7 days of working, resting, and repeating like any other cycle, but for me, it can be 7 quiet sessions of recreation in the depths of your soul. I do not come to you with noise, nor impose myself with dramatic gestures, but with a very deep silence, a presence that is delicate yet steadfast, simply waiting for you to step away from the clamor so that you can notice. I have already spoken to you in my word, be still and know that I am God, 46-11, and it is precisely in that pause that you can hear my heartbeat beating in rhythm with yours. Those 7 days will be like an invitation to enter into stillness, where my call is no longer a vague echo, but becomes a gentle yet very clear assurance that you are loved, guided, and called to go farther than you ever dared to imagine. When that span of time has passed, if you have been willing to cooperate, you will look back and see a change that even you will find surprising. The old version of you, the child who always had to strain just to exist, who had to pretend to be fine so as not to be ridiculed, who had to hide fear beneath layers of busyness, will not disappear in an instant, but it will gradually recede, like a figure standing behind the scenes. In its place, the person I have always seen in you, even before you could see it yourself, calmer, deeper, knowing clearly to whom you belong, will slowly step forward. Your strength will no longer come from the absence of difficulties, but from the experience of having gone through them without having to carry them alone. In the past, you often thought you only had worth when you did much, endured much, proved much. But slowly, you will realize that your value lies in allowing me to touch the most painful, weakest, truest parts of you, even the old scars, the things you once were ashamed to show, will become evidence of how my mercy has been at work in your life. You are not being forced into a perfect version by the world's standards. You are being led back to the simple child I had in mind when I created you. What I am doing is not a performance for you to stand outside, watch, applaud, and then move on. This is not a spiritual show for you to watch like an emotional video, shed a few tears, and then continue living exactly as before. I am speaking of a sacred current, quietly flowing through your life, seeping little by little into the driest places. My light does not come merely to decorate your life, but to shine into the corners you usually avoid, the wrong choices, the hurtful relationships, the habits that pull you away from your own true self. The real sadness does not lie in my absence, for I have promised that I will not abandon you. What is tragic is that many live as if there were only their own rhythm of life, without ever asking whether that rhythm is in step with mine. When your rhythm falls out of sync with mine, you will always feel either out of breath or depleted, even if on the outside everything seems fine. I do not want you to go on like that. I want you to learn how to adjust your pace, to slow down when I stop, to move quickly when I urge, to be silent when I am simply there without speaking, and to speak when I open the hearts of those before you. Deep within your soul, I see an inner person in you who is always reaching for what is higher, deeper, more real. Time and again you have longed to live a life where you no longer deceive yourself, no longer have to wear a mask, no longer have to live just to please one person after another. You have wished you could pray to me with a heart that is unafraid, that you could stand in the midst of life without being thrown off balance every time someone speaks against you. And yet that deepest part of you is often buried under all kinds of other feelings. Self-reproach when you make a mistake, shame over old wounds, the longing to be acknowledged, and the habit of being so strict with yourself that there is no room left for mercy. You scrutinize yourself continually. You place on yourself standards so high they leave you breathless, and when you fail to meet them, you secretly believe that I also look at you with the same displeased gaze with which you look at yourself. It is precisely these layers of emotion that have clouded the truest longing within, like a lamp covered by many layers of dust, still burning but unable to shine outward. I have not come to blame you for that dust. I have come to patiently wipe it away with you, layer by layer, if only you will give me permission. I want you to try to imagine this. What if the most important direction of your life is actually hiding inside the very moments you usually consider useless? Those afternoons when you sit still and do nothing. Those nights when you no longer have the strength to talk to anyone. Those times when all you want is to slow your breathing and look at the sky. You have grown used to measuring the value of a day by how many tasks you complete, how many people you manage to help, how many goals you get to cross off your list. That is why, whenever a day passes in quiet, you are quick to conclude that it was a wasted day. But what if, precisely in those seemingly empty hours, I am gently adjusting your course, sowing into your heart a new thought, a different desire, a different way of seeing yourself and seeing me? If you dare to set aside a little time each day for the next 7 days, simply to sit before me, not performing, not trying to appear devout, only being honest, you will begin to see the first contours of a new path gradually come into view. The clarity you have been seeking for so long is not hidden in more information or more advice, but in the space you truly give me to speak. My child, I ask, to you this not to make things harder for you, but to make a way for you. Are you willing to step away from the noisy crowd inside your own heart long enough to receive what I am sending you? You do not need to run away from the world. You do not need to turn your back on others, but you do need to learn to return to me before you return to anyone else. You can keep rushing along at the old pace, letting everything unfold as it always has, letting another week go by, after which you again sigh, nothing has changed. But you can also choose differently. Decide that the coming 7 days will be 7 days in which you give me the right to rearrange your inner world through honest prayer, through a few pages of my word, read slowly, through the moments when you deliberately say no to the things that pull you away from peace. I do not promise that everything will blaze with dazzling light after just 1 week, but I do promise that if you truly remain with me in that time, the line between me and you will become clearer, straighter, less disturbed. And from there, each small choice you make will no longer arise merely from fear or habit, but from a very new place, the place of a child who knows they are being led, no longer having to draw their own map in the dark. Right now, if you are willing to sit still for a moment and look deeply at your life, you will notice something strange. Your presence on this earth, at precisely this point in history, is not an accident at all. The time in which you are living, the places you are stepping into, the people you meet each day, all of it has been arranged with great and careful intention by me. These are no longer ordinary days, as you tell yourself in order to avoid facing them. The spiritual atmosphere around you is becoming denser, the movement of all things is becoming more urgent, and deep inside you sense it too, even if you cannot name it. There are times when it feels as if time itself stretches out endlessly, with fatigue that never lifts. But there are also moments when everything happens so quickly you can hardly breathe. It is this strange elasticity that makes you think something is wrong with you, when in reality it is simply the way I am folding time, compressing it in order to prepare you for a rhythm of walking very different from what came before. The inner pressure you feel, the times when your emotions seem amplified, do not mean that you have become worse or weaker. They mean that your inner life is having to adapt to a new frequency that I am pouring over your days. You often call everything that is happening pressure, stress, overload, and then you blame yourself for not knowing how to keep your balance. But I want you to look more closely. Is it not true that, deep within, you can feel something urging you forward, like an invisible hand, constantly whispering, you cannot keep living the way you always have? What exhausts you is not only work and responsibility, but the fact that you keep moving at the old speed while I am accelerating the pace of the calling I have placed on your life. This is not merely the weight of everyday existence. This is the upward pull of heaven upon your soul. When I decide to thrust someone into a season of spiritual acceleration, everything around that person, events, relationships, opportunities, even collisions, begins to rearrange itself to serve that increase in pace. You are not abnormal at all. You are simply standing on the threshold between an old season that is about to close and a completely new season that is beginning to open. What I am waiting for is not that you become tougher, but that you dare to admit, yes, I can hear another kind of calling growing louder within me. In these recent days, you have probably asked yourself more than once, why am I so sensitive? Why can a single small sentence touch me so deeply? Why can some tiny detail in my day stay with me and make me think for so long? You assume this is a sign of a troubled mind, but from my point of view, it is proof that your soul is trying to catch up with the guidance I am sending you at a faster rate than before. Those sudden intuitions, Those ideas that flash through you while you pray or simply sit in silence, those moments when you suddenly understand something on a deeper level without knowing how you understand it, these are not illusions. They are the moments when I am pouring into you new scripts for the next stretch of the journey in a way that is quicker and more concentrated. Your mind, accustomed to what can be measured and ordered, may not yet be keeping up, which is why you feel overloaded. But that does not mean you are going off track. I am not asking you to be able to explain everything that is happening inside you. I am only asking you to begin believing that what is unfolding in your depths truly has to do with my plan, and is not just mood swings, as you so often label yourself. You often think that the light I have placed within you is nothing more than a nice personality, a bit of goodwill, a few abilities that help you live more decently in this world. But I tell you, that light is not for decoration, not something for you to admire in your spare time, and certainly not something to hide under a shell of safety because you are afraid of being scrutinized. That light is a force, a stream of holy energy able to change the atmosphere wherever you are present. Wherever you go and dare to live truly out of what I have placed within you, the very space will change. Heaviness can grow lighter, despair can lose some of its density, falsehood can be unmasked. And conversely, when you dim yourself, when you compromise with darkness just so you will not seem different, when you stay silent where you are meant to speak, then darkness advances not because it is too strong, but because you have lowered the light in your own hands. The world does not sink because I am absent, but because my children forget that they were set there as lamps and consent to live like shadows. Have you ever considered that the very place where you are standing right now, your family, your work, the neighborhood where you live, the community where you belong might actually be my answer to someone's hidden cry? Someone has asked me for a person who can listen without condemning them. I send you. Someone has begged me to let them see a face that truly knows how to sacrifice without needing to boast. I place you beside them. There are places that seem dry, cold, stripped of hope, where the only prayer left in weary hearts is, "Please give us just a little light." I have chosen to plant you in exactly those spaces. Your present position, though you may experience it as constraining, monotonous, or dull, is, in my eyes, a strategic point. You are not there merely to make up the numbers. You are my quiet answer to a deep longing that others have not yet found words for. If you look at your life only in terms of salary, title, and role, everything will seem small. But if you look with my eyes, you will see invisible lines connecting you to souls that need your presence. It is for this very reason that everything now seems more urgent. What once took years to form in you a certain understanding, a certain depth, a certain stability, is now being compressed and urged to grow more quickly by me. The connections in your thinking, the once scattered fragments, are suddenly aligning. What you have heard, read, and lived through in many different seasons is now converging into a single point, creating a new, clearer, sharper way of seeing. Your understanding of me, of yourself, of others, is no longer coming to you slowly. It is pouring down like a heavy rain. This is not because you have suddenly become smarter, but because I am widening the breadth and depth of your soul to prepare you for heavier and broader assignments. When I open up the pace like this, you may feel dizzy, but it is also a great grace, for I am shortening the time so that you can take your rightful place in my plan in the midst of a world that is changing with startling speed. I know this makes you uneasy. You are used to a safe rhythm of life, advancing step by step, testing carefully, calculating everything, keeping every movement under control. Now, as you sense that this slow rhythm no longer fits, as something inside you urges you to move faster, to give more of yourself, to live much more deeply, you are startled and assume it is recklessness. But there are souls I have fashioned not for tiny, cautious steps, but for unexpected leaps at the appointed time. You have been shaped to enter into stretches of bursting forward, not by your own strength, but by my grace. That is why every time you hold yourself back, merely out of fear of being wrong, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being imperfect, you feel restless, because you are going against the very current I have caused to flow within you. I am not telling you to rush blindly into everything. I am only asking you not to call courage recklessness, and not to drown out the inner call just to appear safe in the eyes of others. You still think I only choose those who are already prepared, already strong, already spotless, in order to send them out. But from the very beginning until now, I have always used those who dare to step forward while they are still trembling. I do not wait for you to be fully sorted out before I dare to lay my hand on your shoulder. It is precisely while you are still awkward, still carrying many fragments, still unsure of yourself that I call you by name, so that you will know that I, not you, am the one who brings things to completion. I do not push you onto the front lines and then stand at a distance watching. I go with you. I correct you step by step. I mold you even as you are walking in obedience. The only thing I am waiting for is a small yet sincere yes from you, right in your present condition, not a promise that, once I am better, I will respond. If you keep waiting until the day you feel no fear at all, you will never go, because true maturity only comes once you have already begun to walk. One of the most dangerous temptations for your soul right now is the thought, I'll deal with it later. Just wait a little more. One day I will truly live for the Lord. You imagine you still have plenty of time. You think you can indefinitely prolong this period of getting ready, as if there will always be some perfect day for you to finally become serious with me. But I am speaking to you, gently, yet very clearly. The moment of awakening does not lie in some vague future. It is contained in today itself. Each time you postpone something I have reminded you of again and again, you are training yourself in the familiar habit of ignoring my voice. One day you will be startled to realize that it is not I who have been silent, but you who have dulled your own heart. I do not want that to happen, and so I disturb your peace, so that you can no longer stay asleep in your old safe zone. Do not wait until everything around you is perfect. You only need to begin, right now, in the midst of this present imperfection, with one concrete act, a single apology, a decision to let go, a commitment to live truthfully, a moment of daring to say yes to a very quiet invitation that you know with certainty comes from me. Do you see it? All that I have allowed you to pass through, the fatigue, the confusion, the feeling of distance, the times you had to let go, is leading toward a point of convergence. Your life is not a series of disconnected events, but a single thread being woven with great care. And now that thread is touching a crucial knot. I am not exaggerating to frighten you. I only want you to know that this is not just one more season slipping by without meaning. This is a stretch of road where your choices will not only affect your mood today, but will shape the direction of many years ahead and the lives of those who have been entrusted to you. That is why I keep reminding you not to take the present lightly, not to treat this moment as a vague waiting room. Hidden within the ordinariness of today, there is a spiritual crossroads that only those who still know how to listen can recognize. I am not saying these things to lay a burden on your shoulders, but to set you free from the false burdens you are carrying. For so long you have lived under the obsession that you must please everyone, preserve everything as it was, and convince others that you are still doing fine. Today I tell you the truth. You were not born to live a half-hearted life. You were created to carry my presence into dark places through your own story and your own scars. The things that seem shameful, the mistakes you once wanted to bury, the nights you cried silently when no one knew, all of these, if you place them in my hands, I will turn into a language that many wandering souls can understand. And for that to happen, you need to dare to believe that right now, not on some other day, you are standing at a pivotal point on the path I have mapped out for you long ago. Therefore, my beloved child, do not turn your face away in haste from what I am stirring in your heart. Do not be quick to label everything as stress or just psychological, and then keep rushing along the old rhythm of life. Try giving me a chance to speak fully to you about the meaning of your presence in this season, about why I have allowed you to pass through these recent years, and about what I am now inviting you to step into. I do not need you to answer me with ornate words. I only ask for one sincere response. Lord, here I am. I do not yet understand everything, but I no longer want to ignore this call. That is enough for the door I have prepared to begin to open, and you will realize that you are not walking alone. I am still here, still holding your hand, still patiently waiting for the day you believe that this moment, this place, this very self of yours, though still unfinished in many ways, is precisely where I have chosen to accomplish works far greater than you can imagine. My child, after all the times I have had to let you loosen your grip, after all the places you perceived as loss, now I want to lead you deeper into the quietest core of your heart, the place where you have stored the desires you once thought were unrealistic, impractical, and so you tried to bury them. Have you ever asked yourself why, among countless fleeting, trivial wishes, there are still a few desires that keep returning, persistently raising their voice, even though you have tried many times to silence them? It is not because you are stubborn, but because they are not just passing preferences. They are the echo of the vocation I placed within you, even before the wounds of this life ever touched you. The longings that make you feel lighter, freer, closer to me every time you think of them, even though your current circumstances do not yet allow you to live them fully, are the traces of a spiritual life waiting to be awakened. You think you are merely dreaming, but I see them as the fine lines I have quietly drawn upon your soul, so that one day, when you are courageous enough, you will follow them back to your true self in my design. There is something very important I want you to recognize. This moment is unlike any season you have ever gone through. Not because the world outside is changing so drastically that you should be afraid, but because within you a change of season is taking place that I have been preparing for a long time. Grace has its own rhythms, and there are windows of time when grace opens especially deep for those who are ready to respond. This season is one of those moments. It is not a pretty metaphor, nor just a brief burst of emotion that will soon fade. This is a real turning point in your inner journey. Once it passes, it will not return in exactly the same way. There will be other graces, other occasions, but with this particular tone, this depth, these concrete people whom I am bringing into your life right now, it is unique. Not everyone hears the call of this season. Many will only feel something vague and then dismiss it. But you are different. You have heard it, however dimly, in those moments when you long to live more simply, more honestly, no longer chained to things that glitter but are hollow. When you feel the urge to pare your life down, to gradually let go of what tangles your mind, to be willing to accept fewer praises in exchange for more peace, you have mistaken that for a sign that you are losing your fire, that you are falling behind. I see the opposite. It is your soul recognizing that it can no longer endure meaningless noise. You are beginning to lose your appetite for endless rivalries, for the masks you must wear to please everyone. At times you even ask yourself, could it be that I am becoming indifferent? But my child, this is not coldness, it is a purification. I am dimming the brightness of the false lights so that you can recognize another kind of light, warm, steady, not dazzling but penetrating, the very light I have placed within you. The urge to step back from what is merely outward glitter, to choose a path that may be lonelier but more truthful, is not a sign of arrogance or oddity. It is an invitation for you to return to the original direction I traced for you. I know there are times when you are afraid of these very stirrings. You think you are rebelling against the way everyone else lives. You fear being called reckless, strange, so you try to convince yourself, just live as usual, stop overthinking, and you bury again the different ideas I have placed in your heart. But in reality, what is happening is not your rebellion. It is I who am adjusting the inward compass of your heart so that it aligns with my original call. You feel less at ease in places where truth is watered down, less comfortable in conversations that revolve only around achievements, less interested in forms of amusement that numb the heart. These are signs that the Spirit is reordering things, pushing you out of the blind zones where you once compromised, to lead you into a truer space, even though at first it may feel very lonely. As I have said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will enter and share a meal with that person, and they with me. Rev 3:20. I am knocking at the door of your deepest desires, but I will not break it down by myself. I wait for you to acknowledge that this knocking is real, and to dare to open. The things that seem unfinished in your life, the plans cut short, the doors that closed unexpectedly, the relationships that ended without even a proper farewell, are not signs that I have rejected you. I have never used failure to announce to you that you are unworthy. If you are willing to look closely, you will see how those apparently broken places have shaped you. They have softened your heart, helped you grasp more deeply your own limits, and kept you from the foolish belief that you can manage everything without me. Every crack in your heart, no matter who caused it, I see it, and I do not allow it to remain a meaningless scar. I use that very ache to teach you how to listen, how to have compassion, how to recognize pain in others. Even on the days when you feel you are sliding downward, when your decisions leave you full of regret, I can still turn them into sketches of what is to come if you place them back into my hands. Not a single one of your tears is wasted when placed in my care. Each one can become ink with which I rewrite the story of your calling. My child, I do not want you to keep shrinking back as if you had no right to speak in your own life. You have stood on the sidelines long enough, making room for everyone else's opinions and expectations, and when it is your turn you withdraw, afraid to voice what is burning in your heart. You are afraid of being a bother, of being judged, of not being understood, so you conclude that it is safer to be silent, to just get through life. But when you do that, you not only wound yourself, you also slow down the good plans I want to accomplish through you. I did not create you to be a shadow, nor a pale copy of anyone else. I fashioned you with a voice of your own, a perspective of your own, a way of loving that is uniquely yours. If you keep retreating to the margins, afraid to step into the place I have chosen for you, the doors in my plan will remain there but remain shut, not because I am stingy, but because they are waiting for a clear yes from you. You often think that if I want something, it will automatically happen regardless of whether you cooperate or not. I am almighty, yes, but I also respect your freedom so deeply that I will not impose my calling on a heart that is not ready to respond. My plan for you is not a script you are forced to act out. It is an invitation, and an invitation always asks for an answer. When you keep holding yourself back, refusing to acknowledge that what I have placed in your heart is real, you are like someone who has been given a key but is afraid to open the door because they do not know what lies beyond it. You choose to stay out in the hallway, which may be cramped and dark, but at least feels familiar. I will not drag you into a new room if you cling stubbornly to the old steps. But have you considered this? The greatest risk is not that you might fail when you step in, but that you might live out all your remaining years never knowing what you missed because you were afraid to open the door? When you wonder why your life feels suspended, not completely collapsing, yet not truly alive, be brave enough to ask more deeply. Is there a part of you that has chosen silence simply because you are afraid to face change? There are aspects of you, your gifts, your sensitivity, your compassion, your desire to serve, that you have put to sleep, not because they are dangerous, but because every time they awaken, you are confronted with the truth that your current way of living does not match what I have placed within you. So you lull them back to sleep with quick entertainment, with busyness, with the excuse that it is not time yet. It hurts me to watch this, because I know that this is not peace. True peace does not paralyze you, nor make you a bystander in your own story. True peace makes you steady, free, able to stand, up and walk, even when what surrounds you is still uncertain. What you are calling peace is often only numbness, a state where every inner voice is pushed down just so you will not have to change anything. I do not blame you for having chosen that way for such a long time. It is the way many people choose when they are ruled by too many wounds. But now I am drawing nearer, gently lifting your chin so that you will look straight at me. I am not coming to turn your whole life upside down in a single night, but I will not stop inviting you to give a voice back to the parts of yourself you have been forcing into silence for so long. Try to be honest with me. What is the dream that, every time you think of it, you feel both eager and afraid? What is the path where you can sense the light, but you quickly brush it aside because you fear that others will not agree? Where in your heart is that place which, whenever you sit still in silence, softly knocks at the door, and yet you rush to turn on music, turn on a screen, turn on all kinds of other sounds so that it will go quiet? I am inviting you, not so that you will immediately do everything, but so that you will at least dare to name these things before me. When you do that, you have already taken the first step out of the land of fear and into the land of truth. My child, I am gentle with you, but I am not vague. This invitation is here, right now. It is not something for later on, when you have more, when your life is stable. It is about today, in the very concrete things you are living. Today, you can choose to keep pressing down the voice within, to keep withdrawing to the edges of your own life, to keep playing the role of I'm fine for everyone to see. Or you can choose to come to me with everything that is stirring inside you, both beautiful and ugly, both light and dark, and say, Lord, this is who I truly am. I do not want to be silent anymore. I will not answer you with thunder or dramatic signs. I will begin by softening your heart, warming the places that have frozen over, and shining light into the corners you have not dared to enter. And from there, little by little, I will teach you how to step out of fear and live more fully the calling that I placed within you from the very beginning. So, my child, in the midst of all the noise around you, can you hear the question I am asking you alone? Which silent regions within you truly spring from peace, and which are only the muteness of fear that you have grown used to misnaming as being okay? My beloved child, now I want you to pause for a moment, as if we were sitting together in a quiet room, and I ask you a very small question that reaches all the way down to the bottom of your heart. What, or who, have you placed higher than my voice in your life? Is it the praise of people, the opinion of someone you are afraid to lose, or the fear of what people will think of you? Perhaps it is not that you deliberately oppose me, but that you have let too many other sounds cut in, so that when I gently remind you, my word is only like a light breeze passing by, not strong enough to make you stop and reflect. I do not reproach you for this, but I do want you to be honest with yourself. How many times have you known clearly that I was prompting you, yet you chose to follow your feelings, the pressure around you, or the preferences of others, and then later wondered why your heart kept feeling off balance and uneasy. I am not saying this to condemn you, but so that you may recognize the deep reason why you are exhausted, not because you are doing too much, but because you have lived too long without letting my word hold the first place. And yet, in the midst of all this confusion, I also see something very beautiful in you that perhaps you do not see yourself. The small things you quietly do, the hidden sacrifices no one notices, the tears you offer to me in your secret room. These are becoming an answer for others who are in despair and do not know what to cling to. When you faithfully persevere in silence, without boasting, without shouting, you are living what many people only know how to talk about. There are dark places in the lives of others where only your quiet presence, with a heart that keeps choosing to love, to forgive, to go on, can be enough to show that I am truly alive and at work. You think you are small and insignificant, but I see you as a little flame glowing in a damp room, not dazzling, but enough for someone to see that there is still light. Do not think that your hidden dedication is meaningless. It is in fact the most beautiful response to me, and a silent word of hope for those who look at you without saying anything. Do you see it? That lately there has been a very strange movement within you that you do not know how to name, tired and sad, yet longing, worn out, yet as if a very gentle but very strong force were turning you from the inside. That is not your imagination, still less a passing emotional swing, but the process by which I am loosening you from layers that are no longer truly you. Borrowed ambitions, labels put on you, fears about maintaining an image, all of these are slowly peeling away like old skin, revealing the real person I formed from the beginning. I do not want you to become a predictable copy of someone else. I want you to live the unique part of yourself that I have placed in you. That is why everything that is not authentic, everything that no longer fits your calling, is being pushed to the surface so that you can see it and let it go. As I have already taught, be transformed by the renewal of your mind. This renewal does not take place in a single day, but through many days, when you feel as if you are no longer yourself. That is not losing yourself, but finding yourself in me. The feeling you are carrying now, wanting to lie down and give everything up, yet at the same time sensing a very deep desire that says, I want to live more truly with God. Feeling your heart grow warm whenever you pray, yet trembling whenever you think about having to change all of this is not contradictory. It is a sign that your spirit is opening, like a door that has been locked for a long time now beginning to crack open, the hinges squeaking a little, but then the light pouring in. Your body is also reacting to this. Sometimes your heart beats faster. Some nights you find it hard to sleep. At times you suddenly sigh without knowing why. I see it. I am there. I am not far away at all. Do not rush to fix everything by stuffing your time full, by forcing yourself to forget and move on. Allow yourself to feel, to let tears fall when you pray, to let your heart ache before me. As your body and mind begin to reconnect with that deepest part within you, where I am touching you, you will begin to experience a new wholeness. No longer one self for God and another self for the world, but one single person who belongs entirely to me, wherever you may be. Have you ever wondered why you are drawn toward situations that others tend to avoid? Why your heart is so easily moved by someone's pain? Why you feel a sharp ache when you see someone abandoned? Why you wrestle so much over injustice or falsehood? This is not weakness, nor is it overly sensitive. It is the particular mark I have placed in you. You are called to be light in corners where very few are willing to step in a family full of tension, in a workplace soaked in calculation, in a circle of friends filled with comparison. As long as you are still willing to hold on to the truth, to choose integrity, to choose a tender heart instead of a hardened one, you are doing something that many others cannot. You do not always have to speak a lot about me. Sometimes your attitude itself your way of staying silent without colluding in wrong, your way of being patient without becoming bitter is already a very powerful witness. I ask you this with all tenderness. Are you willing to let me use your ordinary life as a lamp placed on a stand, not hidden under a table, even if that makes you different, more lonely in the crowd? I know that sometimes you are so tired that you want to say, Lord, I don't want to be an answer for anyone anymore. I just want a quiet life, without having to push myself further. I hear that cry of yours, and I do not dismiss that weariness. But I also want you to look back at the whole journey you have walked. How many times did you think you would break, yet you still remain standing? How many times did you say, this time I really can't make it through, and yet today you are still here, still coming back to me? That is not by chance. It is because I have never taken my hand off your life. The wounds you have carried, the darkness you have passed through, are now the very capital that allows you to understand and embrace those who are standing where you once stood. If you allow me to heal you, each crack will no longer be a mark of shame, but a window through which my grace shines out. You are not required to become a spiritual hero. You are simply invited to become a child who does not deny their true story and offers that story back to me to use. What I want you to consider gently but seriously is this. Over these past days, what have you allowed to slip into the place that should belong to me alone? It may be work, to the point that you no longer have time even for a simple prayer. It may be a relationship that is gradually leading you to compromise with the truth. It may be an obsession with your own image that makes you choose silence when you should speak, or forces a smile when your heart is crying. Every time you compromise like that, you push my voice one step lower and let other voices climb above it. I do not come to tear away everything you love, but I must remind you that if anything is placed above me, sooner or later it will become a burden. When I say, love me with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength, it is not a selfish demand, but an invitation to restore the right order, so that no created thing will ever again be allowed to crush you with its demands. Right now, you may feel as though you are standing at a crossroads. One road is easy, widely approved, attracting little question. The other is narrow, hard to explain, understood by few. Yet deep down, you know it is the direction where my voice is drawing you. I do not force you. I respect your freedom. But I also whisper very clearly, you will never find lasting peace on a path you choose only to please the crowd. True peace appears only when, even while trembling, you set your foot on the smaller path where I am already waiting. Do not confuse outward comfort with inner peace. Comfort can be bought by compromise, but peace comes only when you live in line with what I have placed within you. If today you feel unsteady, it may be because your soul is crying out. Do not sell your calling cheaply just to gain a few nods of approval. I want you to understand that this spiritual movement is not a passing mood, but a truly important season. If you agree to follow, both your body and your mind will gradually enter a new rhythm. You will know how to stop when you need to, how to say no to things you used to accept out of fear of displeasing others, how to make room for silence instead of being endlessly swept along by noise. You will begin to live more intentionally, not grabbing every opportunity just because it appears, not rushing to everyone just because they need something, not filling every empty space with activity. Instead, you will learn to ask me, Lord, does this really belong to me? Does it draw me closer to you? And many times, my answer will be very gentle but firm. No, you do not need to carry this, or this is exactly where I want you to stand. When you allow me to be involved in this way, your life will no longer be stretched thin by responsibilities that do not come from me, but will become more focused, lighter. Even though you may still be busy, my little child, I want you to hear this as clearly as if it were a whisper, with my hand laid upon your heart. You were not created to dissolve into the darkness, nor to stand high above, dazzling so that people may applaud you, but to shine gently, exactly where I place you, at the right measure and in the right way. Your mission is unlike anyone else's, and so your journey will not resemble that of the majority. You may find that you no longer fit with the entertainments you once enjoyed, that you cannot stomach cheap, shallow conversations, that you feel uneasy when you have to pretend not to see injustice. Do not force yourself back into the old mold, for that is a sign that I have already lifted your soul up a step. I do not require you to always produce something grand. I ask of you only this: do not extinguish the light I have kindled in you in exchange for fleeting comfort. Let that light remain where it is, so that it can reach the corners from which many would rather turn away. And whenever you feel yourself shrinking back, remember, I am always beside you, looking at you with tender eyes, reminding you, you do not have to carry all this on your own. I am the one who began the good work in you, and I myself will bring it to completion. When you begin to dare to loosen your grip on the things that no longer bear fruit, you will gradually discover something very strange. I have never done anything in your life in the noisy, hurried, or harsh way you have always feared. The way I transform you is like a small stream flowing through parched ground, slowly, patiently, without display. Yet, over the years it carves deep lines and opens new pathways that no one could have imagined at the beginning. Those times when you find yourself in tears because of a single sentence, a prayer, a passage from my word, or an old memory you thought you had forgotten, are not moments of weakness. They are moments when your heart is softening, so that I can slip in between the layers of soil that have been hardened for so many years. I do not knock you down with sudden blows. I change you by repeated gentle touches until you are no longer a cold, unfeeling stone, but become a field of earth capable of lifting its voice in response to mine. Think of the rivers that have shaped and sculpted mountains and hills through countless seasons of sun and rain, not by one roaring flood that finishes everything at once, but through days that seem utterly ordinary, when the water simply keeps flowing quietly, touching, wearing down, carving, carrying away, a little at a time. So it is with your inner life in my hands. Today, you may only feel a little tired, a little low, a little confused by nameless thoughts, yet it is precisely in those slightly like that days that I am still at work. I am correcting the way you see yourself, adjusting the way you love others, filtering the motives that even you did not know lay so deep within you. For you, it may seem like just a strange day, but for me, it is a part of the larger blueprint I am bringing to life upon your soul. You often wait for great signs and resounding events before you believe that I am acting, but most of the time I choose to work in hiddenness, in the place where only a father and child know each other. I am not seeking children who merely sit and discuss spiritual wisdom, who can recite concepts by heart, who use ornate words to speak of calling and mission. Yet when they return to daily life, they still live exactly as before, still react as before, still love and hate in the same way as when they did not yet know me. What I long for are hearts that dare to let the truth I speak become their very flesh, so that when others look at you, they do not only hear what you say, but see what you live. I use your very rhythm of life, your work, your family, your relationships, even the most ordinary collisions of everyday life, to write the greatest sermon of your life. I wish you would be less obsessed with speaking well and answering correctly, and begin to ask, Lord, am I becoming what I proclaim? For to me, one gentle look, one decision to forgive, one choice to step back in love is often worth more than the longest speech. The things you call abnormal in this season, heightened sensitivity, being easily moved, quickly tired, or easily hurt. The sense that everything seems to touch you more deeply than before are not signs that you are malfunctioning, but signals that the deepest part of you is awakening. If you pay attention, you will notice your body reacting differently. Your heart beats faster when you hear certain things. Your chest grows heavy when you reluctantly do what I no longer bless. Your tears well up for no clear reason when I touch a very old corner of your past. That is not random, nor merely unstable emotions. It is the small waves of my spirit spreading through your whole being. I am using even your body as a panel of signals to tell you what still belongs to me and what has come to its time to leave. And even when you feel powerless and fragile before these changes, remember the words I spoke to Paul. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Cor 12-9. The very frailty you despise is the place I most love to enter. You often fear this weariness because you think it means you are no longer who you used to be, that you are no longer strong, energetic, and easily sociable as before. You miss the version of yourself from yesterday, always full of energy, always ready to join in, always knowing what to say and do so that everyone is pleased. But, my child, I do not wish to restore you to an old version. I want to lead you into the truest version of yourself, the one I had in mind when I created you. The person within you, the part you have silenced so many times for fear of being different, of being a burden, of being judged, no longer agrees to stay asleep. I am awakening that self, allowing it to speak, to breathe, to live. That is why the things that once satisfied you now feel flat. The gatherings that once made you lose track of time now leave behind a vague emptiness. What once filled you with pride no longer makes your heart tremble as it used to. Do not be quick to condemn yourself as difficult, negative, or overly sensitive. These are signs that your soul has grown larger than the shell you have been wearing. I understand that in this process you will often panic, because everything familiar seems to be changing at once. Friends no longer understand you as before. Some begin to say that you are different, more withdrawn, harder to approach. Places that used to be beloved destinations now feel strange. Even seemingly harmless old habits now leave your heart feeling heavy. It is easy for you to be swept into the thought that you are losing yourself, but I want you to hear this clearly. You are not losing, you are shedding. You are not becoming someone else. You are returning to the true you in the original design. The discomfort you feel is like the feeling of a shirt that has become far too tight, which you still try to wear just because it once was beautiful. One day, I make it so unbearable that you can no longer stand the constriction, so that you dare to take it off. I do not say that this process will be smooth and easy, but I assure you that it is a wholesome process. In truth, deep inside, you also sense that the purpose of your life is no longer as blurred as it once was. You are no longer easily willing to compromise with what is merely superficial, no longer satisfied with hollow compliments, no longer excited by meaningless rivalries. You may not yet be able to name it, but you know you cannot return to the way things were. I am making the call upon your life so clear that you cannot pretend you have never heard it. Instead of viewing this as a burden, learn to see it as a special favor. I love you enough not to let you live forever beneath what I have destined for you. When you say yes to this process, you are stepping from merely believing in me to truly belonging to me, from doing a few things for me to allowing my very presence to shape every choice you make. I know that at times you feel like a field being plowed. Over and over again, one layer after another, with no time to settle before it is touched and turned once more. You even reproach me. Why don't you let me rest for a while? But my beloved child, a piece of land that has never been tilled will never receive seed deeply, and though the surface may look smooth, beneath it is only hardened soil where roots cannot take hold. I do not stir up your life for my amusement. I do it to remove from your heart the stones of bitterness, the poisonous roots of comparison, the heavy clods of pride and self-contempt. Each time you are touched, pained, exposed to the light, you feel discomfort, yet it is precisely then that I am setting you free from things that have bound you for so long without your realizing it. If you look closely, you will see that after each season of upheaval, your heart becomes a little wider, a little deeper, a little softer, a little more ready for what I am about to sow. What I want you to learn in this season is not the skill of enduring heroically, but the art of cooperating with grace. That means that instead of only asking, "How can I get through this stage as fast as possible?" you begin to ask, "Lord, what are you teaching me here? What are you asking me to lay down? What new thing are you inviting me to receive?" You allow yourself to slow your pace, to listen to the small movements within, a prompting to apologize to someone, a desire to change a small habit, an inspiration to spend more silent time with me, an invitation to leave an environment that is drying up your heart. These things that seem so small, when you bravely obey, become the firm steps that lead you out of the old land. I do not demand that you make great leaps. I only ask you to walk with me step by step and to stop trying to run the other way. In all that is taking place, the most important thing I want to remind you of is this: I am still here. I do not stand far away with folded arms, waiting to see whether you will pass the test or not. I journey with you right in the midst of your exhaustion, in the nights when you toss and turn unable to sleep, in the moments when you sit alone, not knowing how to explain to anyone what you are going through. When you sigh, I hear. When you fall silent, I see. When you can find no prayer except, "Lord, I'm tired," I receive that very sentence as your most sincere plea. I am not made uncomfortable by your inner chaos, nor am I confused by your why questions. I remain calm and patient at your side, waiting not to condemn, but to embrace. Then one day, when you turn around and look back on this stretch of the journey, you will be amazed to realize that what you once thought was total collapse has in fact been the turning point that allowed you to become the person you have always secretly longed to be. The fragments you thought could never be pieced together will become a living picture, a testimony to my faithfulness. The times when you felt abandoned will turn out to be the very moments when I was carrying you in my arms without your knowing. On the days when you could not understand yourself, I understood you, and I never once gave up on you. Then you will see more clearly than ever how I have used the steady flow of grace, sometimes nothing more than a small inner light, a verse of scripture, a particular encounter, a minute of stillness to chisel, reshape, widen, and renew you. And you will be grateful even for the weariness you once resented, because it was that very weariness that forced you to stop, to look up, and to recognize that there is one who has been patiently at work within you, preparing you for a life that is deeper, truer, and freer in my love. I know that in your heart there is still a part that keeps holding back, like a hand gripping a rope so tightly that it bleeds, and yet still does not dare to let go. You are afraid that if you open your hand, everything you have labored so hard to hold on to will slip out of reach. You are afraid that if you stop striving, people will look at you as someone who leaves things unfinished. I see those tiny hesitations, those "I'll deal with it later" corners, those lines you quietly repeat in your mind, "Just a little more then, I'll rest," and it is precisely these seemingly harmless things that are quietly stealing your peace. My child, it is time for you to stop punishing yourself with the need to be strong all the time. Do not imprison yourself any longer in the garment of responsibility that no longer fits you. Give your heart a chance to breathe by slowly loosening your grip on what you are trying so hard to control. You are not betraying anyone when you care for your own soul. You are simply returning to me the right to lead your life, the right that has belonged to me from the very beginning. I am not asking you to close your eyes and step forward blindly, nor am I urging you to deny reality or ignore what truly needs to be dealt with. I am simply inviting you to sit down for a moment, look straight at your worry, and ask, where is this fear leading me? You will see that most of the things that jolt you awake in the middle of the night do not come from the present moment, but from hypothetical scenarios your mind paints, from what-if stories that have not yet happened. If you let anxiety sit in the driver's seat, it will turn your whole life into a journey of avoidance instead of a path of growth. Then every plan, every intention, every decision you make, even when it carries the name of responsibility or sacrifice, will be tinted with the dark color of fear. But my child, I did not create you to live in a constant state of alarm like that. I did not give you a spirit that makes you weak and cowardly, but my spirit of power, love, and self-mastery. And it is precisely that spirit who is gently reminding you now. You do not have to be a slave to your worries. Look back for a moment. How many times have you chosen to listen to the noise of the world more than to the still, small voice within? The flood of news, opinions from every direction, the comments of people who have never truly walked by your side, all of these weave together into a thick web that makes it hard for you to discern which voice is mine and which one is merely the echo of collective fear. I do not blame you for being swept up in it. I only want you to know that if you keep living in that field of interference, your heart will gradually lose the ability to recognize my voice, which is always so gentle. The greatest challenge in this age is not the air you physically breathe, but what you allow to occupy the inner space of your being. Some people live in very quiet places, yet their inner world roars like a marketplace. Others walk right in the midst of a busy world and still keep a quiet space in their hearts, because they know how to return to me. I want you to belong to the second group, not because you are better than anyone else, but because you have chosen to let me, and not fear, be the center. My child, the real battlefield is within you. What touches your body affects only part of your life. What you let slip deep into your inner being will shape the way you see me, see yourself, and see the world. Some have strong, healthy bodies, yet their souls are worn out from living too long in a state of spiritual numbness. They no longer feel the need to pray, no longer yearn to meet me, no longer are moved by what is good, not because I have left them, but because, little by little, my voice has been pressed down beneath other layers of priority. It pains me to see how easily you can fall into the same orbit, busy with things that are good in themselves, yet lacking the quiet space to ask me what is truly important in this season. Your body may grow tired, your mind may feel stretched. That is part of being human. What I worry about most for you is not a few aches and pains, but the day you grow used to living without paying attention to my presence. I know that many times you tell yourself you are fine because outwardly you can still work, still smile, still carry out your duties. But if you were willing to pause and look a little deeper, you would see that beneath that layer of normalcy is a vague bewilderment. You are no longer sure who you are, in my eyes, no longer sure which voice truly rises from your own heart and which is merely the echo of others' demands. Many around you are living the same way. They forget their deepest identity as children, as ones uniquely loved, and instead they tirelessly hunt for proof of their worth in achievements, numbers, and fleeting words of recognition. They are afraid of being looked down on, so they do everything they can to be acknowledged, even if only for a brief moment. I do not want you to dissolve into that whirlpool. I want you to live in this world without being dragged along by the waves of chasing empty glory. Do not think that refusing to let fear lead you is an act of defiance or rebellion. On the contrary, it is an act of wisdom and discernment when you choose to stand on the side of truth instead of letting passing emotions rule. When you say no to voices that sow panic, you are saying yes to my voice, calling you to go deeper. I draw near to those who dare to stand still before they panic, who would rather remain silent in prayer than blend their voices into anxious chatter. You may feel out of place when you do not run with the crowd's mood, but right in that feeling of being different, you will catch my gaze resting on you. I do not search for perfect people. I look for hearts willing to choose my peace right in the midst of turmoil. And when you remain firm in that peace, you become a small haven for those around you whose lives are shaking. My beloved child, in a world filled with cries of complaint and endless disputes, you are invited to step into a depth of stillness that not everyone dares to touch. I am not asking you to become a warrior of endless arguments, nor am I calling you to throw yourself into defending your honor or your opinions at all costs. Your first calling is to sink your roots deep into the unchanging truth. You are, my child, I am your God, and I am still guiding history according to a plan of love, even when you do not yet understand it. When you are rooted in this truth, your need to prove anything to anyone will quietly lessen. You will still be able to listen, to engage in dialogue, to contribute, but you will no longer be swept up in the storm of conflict because you need to win. A soul rooted in the truth no longer lives by momentary emotions, but by the quiet yet steadfast light of my presence. Scripture has already reminded you that instead of letting your heart be loaded down with worries, you are to present everything you care about to God, and His peace will guard your mind and heart. That is not an empty promise, but a very concrete path for the days when you feel unsteady. As you begin to place each concern into my hands, instead of letting it spin round and round in your head, you will slowly taste a new lightness. That peace does not mean that every problem disappears. It is the sense of being held, of being kept safe, even while circumstances have not yet changed. You will find that you no longer have to chase every idea that pops into your mind, no longer feel driven by fear to react instantly to every disturbance. You can breathe in deeply, breathe out slowly, close your eyes for a moment and say, Lord, I cannot control everything, but you see, you are here, just that much. And the door for peace has already begun to open. Notice how every time you dare to unclench your hand from something that no longer carries life, a new empty space appears. At first, that emptiness may frighten you, because you have grown used to living crowded with cares. But if, instead of rushing to fill it with something else, you allow me to step into it, you will see that it is not a meaningless void, but a space where I can speak with you more intimately. I will use the very places you once clung to as the places where you now rest your head on my heart. I will take the very parts of you that once resisted and turn them into the places where you stop striving, stop fighting, stop clutching. Then you will discover something strange and beautiful. What you thought you could never live without was really only outer covering. When those coverings are removed, you are not left exposed and empty. You simply come closer to the original image I engraved in your soul. And when you persevere in living this way, choosing trust instead of panic, choosing silence with me instead of drowning in noise, choosing to let go of what no longer bears life, you will see truth begin to speak in your life. You will see more clearly what truly belongs to you and what others have projected onto you. What is the quiet call of my heart and what is the whisper of fear? Then, letting go will no longer sound like a frightening slogan, but become a rhythm of life, the rhythm of releasing what is not truly you, so that the inner space of your heart can gradually be purified. And right in that space, I will prepare you for new steps, new responsibilities, new encounters, no longer born from the need to prove yourself or from fear, but from a heart that has learned to lean on me in all things. Then you will understand more deeply the word I planted in your heart from the beginning. Every time you dare to take your hand off the old, you are not losing yourself. You are simply stepping further into the freedom I prepared for you from the moment you were first called child. My beloved child, you think you are cracking and falling apart, but in my eyes you are not collapsing. You are opening. What you call breaking, I see as new lines being drawn within your soul so that light can enter more deeply. The heaviness in your chest, the burning need to weep without knowing why, the sleepless nights when your heart will not rest, none of these are proof that you are defective or failing, but signs that your inner being is being pulled out of an old, narrow shell. I do not come to deny the fact that you are in pain. I only want to tell you that this pain is not a death sentence, but the convulsion of a door that is opening. You are not dropping into a deep pit. You are walking through a narrow passage. You think you are losing your footing, but in reality, I am taking away the old fragile foundation in order to set you on something more solid, the foundation of truth and love, not the foundation of strain and fear on which you have grown used to standing. Do you notice that the intensity of emotion you are now experiencing has never been normal for you before? Everything feels amplified. Joy seems smaller than before, while sadness, fatigue, and confusion feel multiplied. You look at yourself and grow afraid. How did I become like this? Is my mind going astray? Am I weakening, losing my faith? When I look at you, I see something else. This is the moment when your heart can no longer bear to live on the surface, can no longer tolerate half-hearted things, can no longer be soothed by empty consolations. The restlessness inside is not a punishment, but a bell ringing to announce that you have gone far enough with your old way of living. These strange, deep stirrings in your soul are like a long corridor leading you into another part of your life, a part where you are compelled to be more honest, more profound, more closely bound to me. That corridor may feel dark for a while, cramped at certain stretches, but it does not lead into an abyss. It leads into a new room you cannot yet fully see, but which I have long seen clearly. What I am asking of you now is not to keep analyzing things until you find a reason that guarantees safety, but to dare to trust something that goes beyond what your reason understands yet resounds unmistakably in the depths of your heart. You have lived long enough to know that not everything that seems reasonable brings peace, and not everything that is hard to grasp is wrong. There are choices that look very logical, very proper, yet afterward leave a cold emptiness inside you, and there are steps you cannot yet explain to anyone that nevertheless bring you a deep, quiet stillness. I am calling you into the land of faith, where you are not forced to throw away your reason, but where reason is no longer allowed to sit on the throne as absolute master. I have already spoken. Faith is the assurance of things we hope for, the conviction of things not seen. Heb 11:1, which means that there are times you must walk on the inner certainty I place in you, rather than on what your eyes can prove. I am not asking you to shut your eyes and rush blindly ahead. I am inviting you to place your trust in me, the one who knows the way, rather than clinging to the false sense of safety that comes from trying to control everything yourself. You ask yourself, could the trials I am carrying be the mark of what I was born to live for, or are they only a chain of meaningless suffering? I do not deny that there are pains that people bring on themselves, caused by sin and selfishness. But for those souls who know how to seek me, I let nothing pass without being used. Even the burdens you carry now can become my signature upon your life, a seal that I met you precisely at your lowest place. When gold is placed in the furnace, it is not because it is worthless, but because it is precious and must be refined. When a human being is led through the fire, it is not because I despise them, but because I want to separate from them all that does not belong, so that only what is most pure remains. Right now you may see only sweat, tears, exhaustion, and questions with no answers. But I see something else. I see you being reshaped to fit a direction that until now you have only dared to brush against, never to fully embrace. Your destiny is not an endless string of days spent merely trying to survive. I created you to live a life that has meaning in me, even when that means walking the narrow way. My child, if you dared to consider that your weariness is not simply a sign that you are too weak, but a reflection of the fact that I am touching the very core of your inner being, you would see everything very differently. Like a potter kneading clay, I lay my hands on your life not to crush it, but to reshape its form, to soften what has grown rigid, to remove the sharp edges that make the vessel so easy to break. I turn, I press, I hold, I add water, I cut away the excess clay seen from the outside. All these movements may look rough, yet in truth they are love in action. You think you are being twisted out of shape, but from my perspective you are being brought back to the very form you need in order to hold what I long to pour in. You have grown accustomed to a temporary version of yourself, so when I touch you, your whole system feels like it is shaking. But if I were to leave you alone and let you stay exactly as you are, then I would be the one who abandons you. Because I love you, I lay my hand upon you. Because you are precious to me, I will not allow the hidden cracks to remain untouched until the day they finally explode in silence. It is time for you to stop running away from the emotions you are carrying, to stop labeling every unease as dangerous, to stop treating each tear as an enemy. I am not asking you to indulge every feeling, but I invite you to recognize them, call them by name, and bring them before me, like a patient bringing a wound to the physician. You do not need to pretend to be calm when you are trembling. You do not need to force a smile when your heart is aching. You do not need to speak beautiful words about me when inside you are filled only with questions. I am big enough to bear the truth that lives in you, and gentle enough not to condemn you for your instability. When you dare to stand before me and say, Lord, right now I am afraid, I am confused, I feel as if everything is collapsing, that is precisely when fear begins to lose its power, because it no longer has to hide in the dark. What drains you is not the feelings themselves, but the fact that you battle them alone, straining to keep them locked away where no one can see. When you allow me to enter that deep place, I will teach you to discern which voice is truth and which is the echo of lies, which pain needs healing, and which wound has reached the moment when it can begin to scar over. Rest, yes, that is what I want you to learn, but rest is not the same as giving up. To rest in me does not mean letting go of all that is good and allowing life to toss you wherever it will. It means ceasing to resist in the old way so that you can regain your strength in my arms. You may pause the futile efforts, set aside the mask of, I'm fine, take a break from having to explain and justify yourself to everyone. But I do not want you to step back from me, to withdraw from your calling, from your relationship with me, just because you feel too tired. When you sense that you need rest, run toward me, not away from me. You can say, Lord, today I do not have the strength to do much, but I do not want to be far from you. I just want to sit here, quietly with you. That is already a very real and very beautiful prayer in my eyes. Do not confuse pausing to catch your breath with turning your back and walking away. One is the act of someone who knows they have a father. The other is the reaction of someone who believes they are alone. I want you to choose the first way. The spirit within you is moving into a process of very rapid expansion, and that is why every sensation seems to be multiplied. When the inner door opens, it is not only light that comes in, but also old fragrances, long-locked memories, questions you never allowed yourself to ask. You think you are getting worse, but in truth you are simply becoming more honest with yourself. This speed can make you dizzy, like someone stepping out from a dark room into blazing sunlight. Your eyes sting, your head reels, and your first instinct is to run back into the dark. I understand that, so I do not urge you to hurry up and adjust, but I also do not advise you to return to the old dark room just because it feels familiar. You are being opened so that you can receive more light, more truth, more love, and for that to happen, the walls that once shielded you from pain but also blocked you from peace must be taken down. The intensity you are feeling is therefore not a sign that you are being punished more harshly, but that the process is being accelerated so you will not have to drag yourself for many more years in half measures and in-between places. I want you to know clearly that everything pressing on you right now is not meant to crush you, but to move you from an old way of living into a new way of life in me. Like the pain of a mother before she gives birth, the contractions are not pleasant, but no one calls them a disaster, because everyone knows that behind that pain a new life is about to be born. I do not compare your suffering with anyone else's. I simply want you to lay your hand on your heart and ask, am I sure that all of this is only going to end in meaninglessness? If you are honest, you will see that there is a very deep part of you that quietly knows you are being led, not flung into chaos. I do not promise you that from now on there will be no more battles, but I do promise that every battle, if you allow me to go with you, will become an opportunity for you to discover more about me, about yourself, and about the person I am shaping you to be. You are not falling apart. You are unfolding like a bud being compelled to leave its closed state, and even though the blooming may tear open its old stop-beest shell, it cannot stop because it is already full of life inside. So it is with you, my precious child. The very life I have placed within you is what is driving all this movement, and I will not allow that intensity to harm you, but will use it to take you deeper into love and into the calling I have prepared uniquely for you. Do you not see that everything I have arranged around you in this season is not meant to make things harder, but to reveal the true beauty I quietly placed within you from the very beginning? The environment you live in, the challenges you face, the opportunities that suddenly open and then close again, the people who come alongside you in silence, all of it is like a carefully prepared stage, not to exalt anyone else's name, but so that the unique light that is yours can begin to shine forth. I am not asking whether you are perfectly ready. I am simply whispering, are you willing to wrap your arms around this moment, even when it overwhelms you, even though the pace of change is faster than you expected? Many times, you want to turn back because you are afraid you cannot bear it, but my child, that very sense of being dazed is a sign that you no longer live in your old comfort zone. You have reached the stretch of road where I will no longer allow you to shrink yourself as before, because this is the time when I want my glory hidden deep within you to shine more clearly. In order to embrace this, you need something the world rarely values: inner stillness. On the outside, everything is noisy, information flooding in, invitations, comparisons, rivalries, competition, like a cloud of sound surrounding you. If you let your mind be pulled from one thing to another, you will assume that I am saying nothing, that I am silent, that I am far from you. Yet in reality, my voice continues to sound steadily just beneath that thick layer of noise. My voice rarely thunders, like storm and lightning. It is more like a gentle breeze, passing by, a soft intuition, a thought that arises as you are about to fall asleep, a quiet sense of peace while everything is still unresolved. I ask you, will you sit down, turn down the noise, even silence the inner self-justifying chatter, so that you can hear whether beneath all that clamor something is being whispered to you? If you keep trying to fill every empty space with a screen, a conversation, an activity, then when will you ever allow me to finish a sentence? You often think that it is your own strength, your own effort, your own ability that has brought you this far. You remember the late nights, the times you pushed yourself beyond your limits, the times you refused to allow yourself to quit. I see all of that, and I honor every effort. But I want you to go one step further into the truth. If it had been only your strength, you would have collapsed long ago. In all the times when you thought you would not make it through, there was still a hand quietly lifting you up, setting you back on the path. So many times when you were about to choose a different, easier road, I planted a restlessness in your heart so that you would think again. So many times when you thought a closed door was the end of everything, I opened a small window you did not yet notice. You have come this far not because you are so capable, but because at each bend in the road, consciously or unconsciously, you have spoken to me those small words of, yes, all right, I will try to trust a little more, I will try to take one more step. I will not go back to where I was. It is precisely those responses, though your hands and feet were trembling, that have allowed me to lead you farther than you imagined. The strange stirrings rising in your heart, the ache you now feel at the pain of others that once you barely noticed, the discomfort you feel at falsehoods you used to overlook, the longing to live truthfully, even when it may cost you some safety, are not random emotions. They are part of the mission map I am unfolding for you. I entrust each person with a portion of the work in my great design, and the part that belongs to you is most often written in the very things that make your heart beat the strongest. If injustice makes your heart ache, if wandering souls keep you awake, if abandoned people are no longer something you can ignore, if wounds within families make you bury your face and weep, then right there you can begin to glimpse the outline of the mission I want to place in your hands. A sacred calling is not always written out on paper, but it is always engraved deeply by the truest stirrings in your soul. The road ahead of you will not open at random like an automatic door in a shopping mall. You are not being led in vagueness, nor tossed about by the current of life. The flow of grace I am pouring over you is not a pale stream for you to stand and watch, but a living river, always moving, always inviting. It does not drag you along while you cling to the shore. It invites you to step in, to dip your feet, and then gradually let yourself be carried by the course I have set. In other words, I do not coerce you. I invite you to cooperate. I have a plan, but for that plan to take shape in your life, it needs your response. It needs very concrete steps from you. You can remain standing on the bank, watching the waters I have opened, and still choose to stay where you are. I will not take that freedom from you. But if you decide to rise, to come closer, to stretch out your hand for me to take, you will see everything begin to move in an entirely different way. So it is time for you to look straight into your own heart and see clearly what it is that you truly desire within. Not the pretty answers that sound good to others, not the dreams that win the applause of society, but that deepest, most honest thing which you sometimes fear to say aloud because you are afraid. I will call you to live it out, fully. Ask your heart again. What do you really long for? Fame or my presence, passing comfort, or a life that truly has meaning, to feel safe in the eyes of people, or to be at peace before me? I have already reminded you, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, so I gently ask you as well, what is your real treasure? When you dare to be honest with yourself about your intention, I can begin to purify what does not belong to me, so that the better part can rise up. You do not need to complicate this. You only need the courage to name your deepest desires before me. Open within your heart a space that is truly empty, my child. That inner space cannot be crammed full of petty worries and at the same time hold the fullness of the plan I long to live with you. Begin to stop some of the activities that no longer nourish your soul. Gradually step back from conversations that only leave you more exhausted, and let go of concerns that weigh you down without bearing any fruit. Give your heart a place to breathe, an evening with the screen switched off, a brief window of time not dragged away by notification chimes, a corner of the table that you use only to write down what is swirling inside, You can sit under the night sky, look at the stars, and whisper to me about your most hidden dreams. That too is prayer. You can walk alone on a familiar road and speak to me as to a very close friend. That too is communion. I do not require complicated rituals before I listen to you. I only ask that you be fully present, bringing even what is still tangled and clumsy. I encourage you to write down what is moving within you, not so that I may know more, for I already know everything, but so that you yourself may see more clearly which voice comes from me, which voice comes from fear, and which voice rises from wounds that are not yet healed. As you write, your vague thoughts will gradually take shape, and you will discern which invitations you are called to respond to and which temptations you are called to let go. Write down the moments when your heart suddenly blazed with joy and you did not understand why, the times when you felt powerfully drawn toward a new direction, the times when you sensed a deep peace even though nothing outside had yet turned in your favor. Over time, you will look back and recognize a continuous thread that you could not see before. It is the thread I have been using to lead you, little by little. Do not take those lines lightly, for they may be the journal of a soul that is slowly awakening. I call you to walk through this world as someone who has awakened, not as a sleepwalker. A person who is awake is not someone who never stumbles, but someone who knows where they are going, to whom they belong, and why they are present in each circumstance. Walk upon this earth with the awareness that every encounter can become holy ground, and every day of life can be an opportunity for me to touch someone through you. When you go to work, when you pause to speak with someone who is weary, when you choose silence instead of joining in gossip, when you gently forgive instead of feeding resentment, each of these is a step taken by an awakened soul. I am looking for children like this, not heroes who perform spectacular feats, but those who dare to live every moment with full presence, able to recognize me in the smallest of things. But in order to live this way, your inner life must be gradually cleansed of attachments that have clung to you for a long time. Anxiety, jealousy, bitterness, empty words, these are not just a few dark clouds that pass and vanish, but invisible walls that choke my voice in your heart. Worry drives you rushing toward the future with thousands of worst-case scenarios and robs you of the ability to live the present moment fully. Envy clouds your eyes so that you see only what others have and forget the graces I am pouring out on you each day. Bitterness hardens your heart so that it is no longer soft enough to receive the new things I long to give. Empty words, self-pity, complaining, slander, exaggeration, keep your lips busy while your soul grows hollow. I do not blame you for having carried these things. I simply invite you to start recognizing them and to place each fragment before me so that I may help you take it off. Every time you choose to trust me instead of giving in to anxiety, to bless instead of envy, to forgive instead of feeding hatred, to remain silent in the face of useless talk, you are removing another brick from the wall that stands between you and me. Right now, I am guiding your journey with a precision you could never measure by any standard of this world. I see even the turns in the road that are still hidden from you. I have already taken into account even the wrong choices into which you may stumble. And in all of these I still know how to draw out what is good for your soul if you allow me to lead you. The question is not whether I care about you, for my love for you does not change, but whether your heart will open to receive or close itself in suspicion. You can let layers of mist made of disappointment, low self-worth, and doubt blur your sight so that you perceive only what is wrong around you. Or you can ask me to wipe your eyes so you may see the small traces of providence in each day of your life. Your value in my eyes does not waver whether you are on the heights or in the depths. To me, you are always a beloved child. What remains is this: how ready are you to live as someone who truly trusts in that love, rather than only knowing about it in theory? So, my child, Do not hastily turn your back on the invitation that is gently knocking at your heart right now. I am not waiting for you to become a flawless version of yourself before I draw near. I want to meet you, here and now, with everything you have and everything you lack. You no longer need to prove anything to me, to perform, or to polish your answers. You only need to say honestly, Lord, I am tired, I am afraid, but I do not want to miss what you are doing. Please help me walk with you. When you say that, even in the faintest whisper, all of heaven hears. And I, the one who has never taken my eyes off you, will continue to lead you along the path already prepared, so that the true radiance I have placed within you may be revealed, not for your glory, but so that many people, through you, may realize that I am living and am waiting for them to come home. My child, now quiet your heart, gather up all your weariness, confusion, and hidden longings, and then whisper to me with the most honest prayer that rises from the depths of your heart. Almighty God, I come to you when my heart is exhausted and my mind is in turmoil. Many times I have regarded my weariness as failure and the inner chaos of my soul as the final full stop to my journey of belonging to you. Today I ask you to change the way I see myself. Let me understand that the deep stirrings and the nameless stabs of pain are not inner corruption, but signs that the Holy Spirit is at work within me. Lord, grant me the courage not to run away from these inner upheavals, but to dare to stand still in the midst of them in order to listen to your call. When my heart beats fast, when my chest feels heavy, when tears stream down unchecked, please help me remember that you are adjusting me, not abandoning me. Teach me to read the sacred meaning in every small disturbance, so that I may not waste a single moment that you use to shape my life. Good Father, I confess before you that I have lived far too long under the obsession of having to prove my own worth. I am afraid of being forgotten, afraid of being underestimated, afraid of being seen as useless, to the point that I no longer do things out of love but only so that others will recognize me. Lord, please set me free from the prison of human opinion so that I may return to the gentle gaze of the Father. Help me truly believe that before I could do anything at all, you had already called me beloved child and marked me with your seal. Let me stop racing to meet the expectations of others and stop placing myself under harsh measurements, so that I may begin to live from being loved, not in order to be loved. When I am weak, remind me that you do not drive me away. When I fall, help me trust that you are the one who lifts me up, not the one who condemns me. Use my very weaknesses, my sensitivity, and my tears to make me an instrument of your mercy. Almighty God, I bow my head to thank you for the weariness that I once only wanted to escape. I used to complain that the road of life was not smooth and that there was too much inner conflict within me. Now I realize that it was precisely this exhaustion that forced me to stop, to question, to look deep into my soul and recognize that I had been living far from your will. I thank you for not allowing me to fall asleep in the comfort zone. I thank you for using even my exhaustion to show me that I cannot carry everything by myself. I am grateful that with every faltering step I take, you do not abandon me but quietly support me, using inner signs to draw me back to yourself. Merciful Father, I offer you my thanksgiving for the seasons in which I felt cut off from what was once familiar. In those days I felt pushed to the margins, misunderstood, no longer fitting in with many things. But now, looking back, I see that these very moments of no longer belonging opened up a space for me to walk more closely with you. I thank you for the doors that have closed, which hurt me at first, but in fact protected me from what was no longer good for my soul. I thank you for those who have remained by my side, and also for those who have gone their way, because through every meeting and every parting, you have been teaching me to love more deeply while clinging less. I recognize that in every arrangement, whether I understand it or not, you are always directing things toward what is best for me. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong and vibrant community of faith.